and these are the continued delays in the completion of the Pudihadi Dam, which is part of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project that could plunge Gauteng into a water crisis. This is the warning from scientists and engineers who say the project is key in ensuring supply in the event of a drought. The former South African Institute of Civil Engineering President and Umfula Wempilo Consulting Management Director, Dr. Chris Herold, joining us now from Johannesburg. Dr. Herold, good evening to you, and thanks indeed for your time. Let's start with why the delays in this project. You are quoted as suggesting that this particular project, the latest one, at least the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, is 10 years behind schedule. Why is that?
Well, the reasons are mostly political, so I can't really comment on that. I haven't been involved in the talks between South Africa and Lesotho, but there have been many, many delays, even in getting started. It's only it's only recently started.
Yeah. Let's then try and deal with the technical issues as you would know them best. Let's start with why it is that you are so stressed as engineers that if a drought were to hit, let's look back to the period 2015, 2016, there was quite a dry spell in the country. If we were to experience a period like that, how deep in trouble would we be, particularly the province of Gauteng?
Well, if that drought had extended into a medium-sized drought, we would have been in serious problems. We design river systems to meet drought conditions for about 1 in 50-year period, sometimes even more than that for energy supply and so forth. So our hydrological record is about 105 years long. During that period, we've had 2 such events, 2 of those bigger events, the 1930s drought and the 1980s drought, which was a bit worse. If we had a drought like that today, in 2015, if that was a drought like that, if it hadn't finished at the end of 2015, we would have been in real trouble, because we had water restrictions, we had to impose water restrictions in May of that year, when the storage in the whole of the Vaal system, remember Vaal Dam is only about a quarter of the Vaal River system, but when that storage drops down to 60%, we impose level 1 water restrictions for good reason.
Yeah.
And in that case, that May, it did reach that condition, and water restrictions were imposed. Now, that is really horrific, because having checked the trajectories of the dam and the information and the data, it was very apparent to me that we should have had 74% water in storage at that time.
Yeah.
Not 60%, not 60. In which case we would never have even needed restrictions in that drought, which ended at the end of that year.
Yeah. And
10% of the reason for that was because of the municipalities not coming to the party. They had 20 odd years to get their act right. That they had to, within 10 years of the start, which was around about 2008, they were supposed to reduce their water losses from the distribution systems down to 15% from the then estimated about 30%.
When you talk about water losses, sorry to interrupt you, when you talk about municipalities coming to the party and preventing water losses, what are we talking about here? Leaks? What else?
Well, leaks, water bursts, those are the basic things, yeah.
Yeah. And what is it about infrastructure in the Gauteng province that is difficult to get right, Dr. Herold? Because that is one of the major issues. We've even had the so-called war on leaks. This was during the administration of former President Jacob Zuma. That didn't seem to solve the problem either.
No, it didn't. But you know, there's never been a major problem that couldn't be solved. It was the political will to spend the budget to do the maintenance properly. To give you an idea, the water pipes, the buried water pipes, have an average lifespan of about 50 years. Some longer, some shorter, depends on where they are and what they are. And that means that every year you have to replace 2% of your inventory. And when you've only got that 2% to deal with, it's not so difficult. You just refurbish the old pipes, keep track of them, measure everything. And when those pipes are reaching their sell-by date, you get rid of them, you put in new ones.
Yeah.
But when you're only spending about half of the budget that you require, it means that you have a backlog, and that backlog grows every year, longer and longer.
Dr.
And it
Herold,
means that a pipe, yeah.
Apologies for rushing you. Time is against us.
Sure.
If the water problems, particularly in Gauteng, are not acted upon quickly, you are also quoted as almost explaining the economic impact of that. Water is quite an important resource, unlike electricity. When you don't have water, can you explain to us what the economic impact of that is going to be very quickly, please?
Well, basically, if we run out of water, that's in the giddy extreme, then it's going to shut down the economy of that area entirely. And here we're talking about the Vaal River system, so it's about half the GDP of the country.
Wow. Now that...
But that's for the total shutdown.
Yeah.
But that is what we were headed for if we had a drought similar to the 80s drought or the 30s drought in 2015, because all of the water schemes that would come in much quicker than required because of the overuse of the water that was being put in. Polihali Dam had been planned on the assumptions that the municipalities would reach that 15% target.
Yeah.
It didn't come near it. In fact, now we're way over it.
Just out of interest, I'm letting you go. Yeah. Just out of interest, right now, the Vaal River system is at 113% full. How long should it take for it to get to a 60% where there is now worry and that there needs to be water restrictions? Ordinarily, if our systems were working well, how quickly would it reach that stage?
Well, that's hard to say because it depends on what the hydrology is like. But if we run into a drought condition, serious drought condition, then 3 or 4 years you'd probably be there. Especially with this, with the overuse on the system as it is.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Chris Herold, I want to thank you very much for your time. Managing Director of the Umfula Wempilo Consulting, and he's also a former president of the organization SACE.